Welcome to Impact Unscripted. I'm Johari Mathews, your host for a conversation that goes deeper than the headline. Each episode, I will sit down with leaders shaping impact from every angle. The corporate executives building CSR strategies that move the needle, the nonprofit leaders running mission like a business, impact investors planting capital behind change, and the community builders making it real on the ground. This is where impact takes many forms. Let's get started. So my guest today is a native of Nashville who has spent her entire career serving this city. She came up through nearly 2 decades at the YMCA of Middle Tennessee, where she exemplified what it truly means to serve and show up for the community. And then she took that to one of the largest platforms in the state, the Tennessee Titans. Johari Mathews is a vice president and executive director of One Community and the Tennessee Titans Foundation. And her story is as much about Nashville as it is about the NFL. So let's get into it. So Johari, thank you so much for joining me on Impact Unscripted.
Thank you for having me, Rava.
I am excited to have you because your body of work that you have done here in Nashville is remarkable. So I'm excited for our listeners to learn more about you and One Community and Tennessee Titans Foundation. So before we get started, if you could please share with our listeners who may not be familiar, what is One Community?
Sure. So first, so excited to be here and to have this conversation with you. One of my favorite topics is community. And Of course, you match that with Nashville, just makes my heart swell. One Community is the Tennessee Titans. When we probably, I'd say maybe 5 years ago, when we were thinking about building a new stadium, but also even just the next phase. At one point, we were just going to renovate the stadium that we're currently in, and then the talk shifted to, hey, we could probably build a new stadium. Well, our CEO at the time, Burke Nihill, really thought that it could also be an opportunity for us to just revisit from a community investment, a community engagement strategy, the things that we were doing and how we could go deeper and wider. I think if you've been in Nashville for any amount of time, you're familiar with some of the ongoing conversations about affordable housing. Transit is a big one. Our education, our children, how we can support our kids. And so there were a lot of topics that were specific to Nashville, but also just the overarching community investment and philanthropic process of how we could get more involved. And so we sat around, we thought about what could the Titans do? How could we use our platform of being an NFL team, but also how could we use this project of building a new stadium as a catalyst to go deeper. The Tennessee Titans do a million things across the board when it comes to community, but how could we be more intentional? And so we thought about 3 areas, which is opportunity, neighborhoods, and education, which is what One stands for. And in those 3 areas, we came up with programs and partnerships that we thought would truly just move the needle as an NFL team. We worked with 16 different community partners to create these programs or either to forge a partnership with them to be able to do that. And through One Community, we've been able to tackle, no pun intended, but tackle issues such as creating an investment affordable housing fund that supports nonprofits and developers who are doing the work of either creating more affordable housing developments or creating programs that directly put resources in people's hands so that they can get a better footing when it comes to either finding housing or going through programs that set you up for success to be a first-time homeowner, rental assistance programs, things like that. And then programs such as like our First and Goal Fund, which is all about supporting small business owners by providing grants and loans that help them scale their businesses or even just fill in the gaps when they have challenges, because we all know owning a business is a roller coaster. And then there are education initiatives, things that we are doing working with Metro Nashville Public Schools that create career pathways for students. We have a really incredible partnership with Metro Schools where where we're putting in turf fields at all of the high schools to be able to expand some of the programming that our high schools are able to offer for not only the students, but also the communities surrounding them. And then from the opportunity side, we have an incredible workforce development program, which is called Titans Construction Training Camp. It's a mouthful, but we affectionately call it TC2, which is all about introducing individuals, adults 18 and older, to careers in construction. And it's a 6-week program. It's paid. They learn the trade. They get their certifications. And then from there, they are able to be placed on job sites. Some are placed on the actual new Nissan Stadium construction build. But it is an opportunity. It's a gateway to creating and launching that next chapter of your life. We have individuals from all different backgrounds, some who have just gotten out of prison, and this is their second chance. We have some who have just graduated high school, and they're like, I have no clue what I wanted to do, but this sounded good, so I'm going to do it. We have some who are like, hey, I'm a parent of, 4 kids, and I just want to increase my income for my family and their well-being. So at the core of what One Community is, it's all about creating generational change. It's programs and partnerships that speak to making sure that Nashvillians, as well as just Tennesseans across the state, find an opportunity, and that using our platform as the Tennessee Titans, we're able to use our resources to be able to provide access and expand on some of the really incredible good things that our 16 community partners are already doing, but just finding a way to make it accessible to all.
Oh, I love that. Because serving the community is already one thing, but being able to serve in a way where you're able to make a generational impact and change, that's beautiful. So thank you and we're going to talk more about One Community. Okay. But before we get to that, I want to talk about the foundation of it all, right? Mm-hmm. So you spent nearly 20 years at YMCA of Middle Tennessee. So what have you learned through your work there about what community needs versus what organizations think that they need?
That's such a great question. And I think when I think about that question, it really is why I'm in the space that I am in now. My time at the YMCA has played an instrumental role in really just shaping me into who I am. I worked in a number of different neighborhoods and communities during my time at the YMCA, which was beautiful because I got to see Nashville in a completely different way. And by the time I made it to the Northwest YMCA and became the executive director there, that really was, when I think about your question, that's where it all just kind of clicked for me. The Northwest YMCA is located in a historically African-American Black community. Mm-hmm. It has a lot of rich history at that YMCA. It also serves as an anchor institution for that community. You talk to anyone who was born or raised in Bordeaux or North Nashville, they have a Northwest YMCA story of why it's important to them or how it shaped their childhood or they spent time there. And so it is an anchor institution. That's where a lot of everyone in that community goes to or looks to when it comes to any issue or anything like that. The problem was it was from a budget standpoint, it was in a deficit. They were truly struggling, and it had gone through a couple of different waves of, do we close it? Do we keep it open? At one point, the conversation was, we're going to turn it over to the city and let the city do it. The community was in an uproar because, again, it just has so much history and it's such an anchor. And I think the first thing that taught me was you can't do something to a community. You have to do something with a community. So you really have to engage. You really have to learn. You really have to take time to listen. And from there, that's where you can come up with strategies on how you continue to serve a community and meet the needs directly. So from that, I think we learned so much. And because of that, we learned, all right, we need to go back to the drawing board. And that's where we started working with some of our corporate sponsors, our partners, like Amazon and HCA and Blue Cross Blue Shield. There were so many corporate partners that we had on the table, but what we were lacking was learning how to tell our story and why it was important to be able to engage and serve in this community, and how being a part of what we were building there was special, but also needed. And so from there, I think once we learned how to tell our story and really learned, hey, how can we show that these are real lives, real people, real, families, real children who are benefiting from these programs and from having this place in their community, that's where it started to connect with our corporate partners, and really keeping that at the core of everything that we did. We came up with strategies after listening to the community and after, like I said, figuring out what can we do that is truly walking alongside community members.
Yeah.
And from that, it really taught us, like, hey, you just have to simply listen.
Yeah.
But it also allowed me to, get to a certain point in my career and in my leadership, and when it came to serving community, of, hey, if this is not something that the community wants, like, you have to be the voice, and you can't be afraid to walk into that room and say, hey, it's not going to work. It's not going to be a good fit. And I ran into that over and over again. And from there, I think it taught me just in my leadership of not being afraid to use your voice.
Mm-hmm.
When you are at the table, you have to speak up. And again, you have to do things with a community versus doing it to them, because otherwise, you're going to be correcting things like a lack of trust. You're going to be correcting things like trying to rebuild people feeling like they belong and that they feel heard and valued and seen. And in my opinion, it's so much easier to restructure a program versus trying to restructure someone's trust that they put into you, versus you saying, I really don't care what you're saying. I'm going to go ahead and do what it is that we need to do. And that just, it makes it harder. You can't come back from that. It's hard to crawl back from that. So listening, building trust, and using your voice when the community has, given you that opportunity to speak on their behalf, you have to be able to, you can't be afraid to speak up.
Yeah. So what it sounds like is like advocacy is all about that process of, learning, unlearning, and relearning.
Yes.
So you can better be the voice for those people that need it the most. So that's, and I'm sure this experience has served as a lens for you as you brought it into a whole different institution.
Yeah.
To the Titans. So what is it about the Titans opportunity that your nonprofit background has prepared you for?
So I will start by saying, when I was at Northwest, like I said, we worked with a lot of different corporate partners. But kind of one of the most consistent things that I noticed when we were working with these corporate partners is that they all do incredible work, and they have some incredible people at the helm of their organization leading community strategy and investment. But what I noticed is, like, hey, no one really has like nonprofit experience or community building experience. And to me, I think that's where some of the gaps and the challenges were, because sometimes it is so easy when you are on the corporate partnership side to come in and say, hey, we want to give $500,000 and you guys just do what you want to do. And that's, trust me, any nonprofit would be like, oh my God, that's great.
We'll take it.
We'll take it. But then you also have the nonprofit that's like, thank you so much. And then in the back of their mind, they're like, how in the world are we going to spend $500,000 in 1 year?
Exactly.
And we have a budget, we have this, we have that. And you're telling me that I can't spend it on operational things. It has to be programming. So now I got to create more programming, which means I got to get more staff. Like, there's just so many things that if you have never worked in nonprofit, this is going to sound real harsh, but sometimes it's like, oh, you don't really understand the struggle of what it means to run a nonprofit and balance a budget and serve and create quality programming that is actually beneficial to the community. And so for me, I feel like my experience, my background in nonprofit really prepared me for when this opportunity opened up with the Tennessee Titans, for me to go into it with that lens of, hey, we can do a million things across the board with nonprofits, but what's beneficial to them, what is also not a burden to them, that's not going to add more work, more stress, more nuances to all the things that they already have to do. And how can we be flexible with nonprofits? And because of my experience and because I've been able to see that firsthand and I've been on that other side, that is the lens that I walk into every day with this work that I get to do of, how can we make sure that whatever it is that we're doing, again, that it's mutually beneficial, but that it's really serving the community that nonprofit serves, and that it is eliminating barriers. I think when I was on the nonprofit side, the really, I would say the thing that really stuck out the most to me was, the corporate partners that we worked with. It was also, again, not being afraid to speak up and say, thank you so much for this resource that you're trying to provide us, but what if we did XYZ with this? That's scary for nonprofits to think about, because you kind of want to have your hand open to everything, but you also want to be able to stand firm in your values and stand firm in knowing, like, this is what best serves my community. And so going into the Tennessee Titans, that was probably, I think, one of the toughest conversations I had when I first started. Was I remember we were sitting at a boardroom table, and our senior leadership team, we were talking about something that we wanted to do to incorporate within one community. And we were talking about it from a stance of, this is what we're going to do. Yeah. Like, we're going to call them up and we're going to give them X amount of dollars and we're going to create this program and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And, listening to it, it was like, oh yeah, this sounds great. And then finally I was like, hey, we probably need to invite them to the table and ask them, like, what is it that they actually want? Yeah. And sure enough, everyone in the room was like, oh, yeah, you're right. Like, I guess that does make sense. Like, I guess we do need to, before we just create this whole new program for this community, for this nonprofit, let's invite them in. And from there, we brought them in and had a chance to sit down and just listen to them. And at the end of the day, by the end of the conversation, it was like, oh, what we were trying to do is not even, like, that's not even what they need. Yeah. So for me, I think going into the Tennessee Titans, again, my nonprofit experience has taught me to really be able to not forget to give nonprofits a voice at the table when it comes to how we want to show up.
I love that. Just like how during your time at the YMCA, you showed up for the communities as you're helping them, and now you get to show up for nonprofits. So, yes. And being able to be a voice because of your experience within the nonprofit sector. Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah. So thank you. So now going back to one community, opportunity, neighborhood, and education. Yeah. And you shared earlier how those three pillars show up in the day-to-day, making generational and sustainable impact. And correct me if I'm wrong. So since 2018, the Titans have served over 135 local organization?
Correct. Now, we've been doing work since 1999 when we came to Nashville. So I don't want people to think that it just started in 2018. But yes, the Titans have been a part of the Nashville community since, honestly, 1997 when they came to Nashville, and have done some incredible things throughout the course of our almost 30 years that we've been a part of the Nashville community. But since 2018, I think once we started really tracking and looking at all the work that we've done, we have served, and it's way more than that now that we have surpassed. But we've worked with hundreds of nonprofits across the state, hundreds of schools across the state, and really just tapping into so many communities that I think a lot of people, when I think about the work that we do, a lot of people, we don't even, I think sometimes it's hard for us to even talk about all of the things that we do because it's so much, and there are so many communities that we get to tap into in ways that really just cross the spectrum of how you can give back from a philanthropic stance.
And see, I was looking at it as, that's a lot, 135 just from 2018 alone. So that's amazing. So how do you keep those relationships with the communities that you're serving meaningful?
I would probably say that the first thing that we try to do is just have consistent and continuous touch points. It's so easy when you're in this space. It's so easy to just show up, with the check and do your smile and wave, and then you're on to the next thing. But finding unique ways to make sure that we are keeping our relationships intact. And I tell nonprofits and some of our community partners all the time that, we can do something together today and still have a relationship over the next few months. But we may not do something again together for another year. However, in that interim, we're still sending you our newsletter. We're still reaching out to you and checking in. We're still sending you, one-off opportunities, whether it's coming to a game or most recently, I think a lot of people know we relaunched our brand as an organization as a whole. But before that, before we did this big brand reveal, we had a lot of stuff that we needed to move out and make sure, to get out of our warehouses and out of our closets so that we could make space for the new things. And we're like, hey, let's reach out to all of our nonprofit partners. Let's just send them things like, here's swag items, here's merch, here's all this cool Titans gear. And I think you have to be creative, and that's one example of how you can be creative with maintaining those relationships, but also just keeping an open door. I remember when I was on the nonprofit side that all the time people would ask, because Northwest Y also had a really good relationship with the Tennessee Titans, and people would ask, how did you know who to call up there? How did they become one of your partners? And so when I stepped into the role with the Tennessee Titans, one of the things that I was just very adamant about was, I don't want people to think that we're just up here in this ivory tower and you can't have a connection or relationship with us. And so what that looked like was, hey, we got to get out into the community. You have to go to where the nonprofits are. So whether that's, an event, a community event, whether that's a panel where nonprofits are convening, whatever that looks like, but making ourselves accessible just as much as nonprofits make themselves accessible. And then also putting it up on our website and sharing on our socials of, this is how you can get in touch with us. This is how you can talk with us, and just simply making time. We do it all the time where, we reach out to nonprofits and we say, hey, we're having one of our staff, he calls it office hours, but he just sets time on his calendar and he's like, whatever nonprofits want to jump on our virtual call, I'm here to just answer any questions about one community or give you any updates about Titans Foundation or what we're doing with the Tennessee Titans, or even if you want to share, you want to pitch something to us, this is the time for you to do it. So one way to maintain those relationships is keeping that open door. The second way is going out into the community and making ourselves accessible and not making it seem like we're in this ivory tower. And then the third way I would say is throughout the year, one of the really unique things that we do is that we reach out to nonprofits from time to time and just ask, hey, can we just come and visit? Not to bring cheer or our mascot or anything like that, but like, hey, take us on a tour of your space. Show us a program that you have going on. And that throughout the year for us has been very, very meaningful and beneficial because it has allowed us to learn so much more about the nonprofit landscape and what's happening out there in the community, but also that connection, that relationship of making sure that we are building and nurturing those relationships.
I love that because it's one thing for a nonprofit to do their part in sustaining a relationship with a corporate partner, but it shows intentionality when a corporate partner is making sure that they're maintaining that relationship, saying, hey, we didn't just support you once, we want to know what's going on. And I think that's such an important piece that is critical to serving with intention. So, again, Titans is a distinct platform, and the NFL has this enormous visibility and cultural weight. So what is it with the Titans platform that you're able to do that a traditional foundation simply couldn't?
The first thing that comes to mind would be the reach. On any given Sunday, we have close to 70,000 fans in a stadium. And then when you couple that with the people who are watching on TV, or, we have, I think, close to like 1 million followers on social media, just on the Titans page alone. And then you add in the NFL, the reach, the platform is something that looks so much different than other foundations, but it's also the beauty of the sports philanthropy space, because I think it does give us a responsibility of when it's time to raise awareness about a cause, when it's time to, shine a light on an issue or rally people to come together and to come together and support a cause or to volunteer or, whatever that may look like. I think the thing that sets us apart is that we already have this audience. We already have this built-in fan base. And the thing that I say about sports, especially when it comes to sports philanthropy, is that when you go to a football game or when you go to any sporting event, most of the time, we live in a tricky time now, but most of the time, once you get into that game, you are building almost this kind of unified this community with the people who are rooting for the same team that you're rooting for. And not once are you looking at the person next to you and saying, well, who did you vote for in the election? What are your thoughts on XYZ? You're not. You're like, oh, you got on a Titan shirt? I got on a Titan shirt. Let's this thing, rah, let's go.
We're here for a common cause.
Right. We are here. We believe in the same, common thing. We're rooting for the people. And if you've ever been to a professional sporting event or any sporting event and they, have said, perfect example is Crucial Catch, our initiative about cancer awareness. If you've ever been in the stands or at a game when we are highlighting that, sometimes they'll say, if you have a family member or if you've been impacted by cancer, stand up. We're cheering for you, like we're proud, whatever. You look around and you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, me too. Like, wow, like I'm rooting for you. Like, shout out for you. It is a common denominator and it's a unifier that is different than what other foundations have the ability to do. And we recognize that that is a responsibility within itself. And
Yeah.
so we are always having conversations between the Tennessee Titans, our organization, and then what we're having at the league level of how do we become more cognizant of that responsibility, but also how do we make sure that we are using that platform in a way that truly is kind, loving, positive, and moves the needle on things, but also is one that we're not taking advantage or taking that for granted. And so the first thing, like I said, I would say is the reach, and being able to unify people from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life who just come in wanting to cheer on their favorite team. And then the second thing I would say is that we have 32 clubs within the NFL, within the league. And although each of those clubs, we have our own different markets and our different communities, I think one of the benefits is that we all have each other.
Yeah.
And so we can bounce ideas off each other. We can, kind of see it in real time, what works and what doesn't. But also when it's time to rally for something. So, for example, I'll use, the example of like the floods here in Tennessee. When that happened, we had 31 other teams calling us asking, hey, what can we do to support you all? And our foundation wants to give to your foundation, or, hey, we're going to send, bottled water, whatever it is. I think that's one of the benefits, too, that separates us from other foundations, because we really do have this network within a larger network of the Tennessee Titans Foundation that is a part of the NFL league, the larger umbrella. So it helps to have that.
Yeah, I love that. I just learned something new.
Yeah.
So when, each club, they're doing their own thing, but when it comes to something significant, such as showing
we
up
have
for
each
them,
other's backs. We are showing up for each other.
I love that. So now, there's even a bigger platform coming in 2030.
Oh, yeah.
Nashville is hosting the Super Bowl, right? So, which means that it's going to be on a global stage.
It is.
So how do you hope one community work is seen between now and then?
Yeah.
And how do you hope that the world sees it beyond the stadium?
Yeah. So Super Bowl 2030 it'll be here before you know it.
I know.
And it is, from what I am learning, and of course, this is our first Super Bowl, which we're really excited about hosting.
And at the new stadium.
It's the first time we're hosting, our city is hosting. And what I've learned is that it is a massive machine.
Yeah.
There are a lot of moving parts when it comes to hosting a Super Bowl in your city. And one of the things I think that I have also learned is that the word community and giving back, and how, the host city tends to show up, looks a myriad of different ways.
Yeah.
And so that's everything from, you think about from an economic standpoint of small businesses having an opportunity to, be a part of the Super Bowl that could change financially and economically their life as a small business like that. There's football development. That's the space that we're in. There's opportunities to introduce young people to football, but also in a safe and healthy way of helping them learn the game in a way that is mindful of the safety and the teamwork and leadership that comes with it. And then you have the community development side of, are we able to enhance spaces that may have gone overlooked over the past few years. But thanks to the Super Bowl, we're able to invest in these areas. And then the people, like, how can we make sure, one of the things that we've talked about so much is just how can we make sure that the Super Bowl is not just, that it doesn't forget about the Nashvillians and the everyday people that are here. So how can we create unique opportunities for everyone to enjoy the Super Bowl? When I think about one community, everything that I just named falls in one of those buckets. It falls, small, supporting our small businesses and making sure that they have an opportunity falls under that opportunity umbrella. The neighborhoods piece, how can we use this as a way to enhance areas around Nashville that, may have just gone overlooked that we haven't had a chance to touch? And then the education side, the youth football piece falls in that. But I also think about career pathways of how can we use this as an opportunity for high schoolers or young people to get introduced to the hospitality side? Because a lot of times I talk to young people all the time and they always say, "Oh, I want to work in sports. I want to, I want to do sports medicine." And that's great.
Yeah.
However, when I really sit down with them, or when they have an opportunity to come to the stadium and they see all the different careers, whether that's the stadium production side, stadium operations, what happens, putting on a game day, or even what happens when we put on a concert. Like, when I talk to them about that and when they hear about those things, they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that was a career. I didn't know that was a job." And I'm like, yeah. So how can we use Super Bowl as a way to introduce young people to so many different careers that make up putting on a successful large-scale event like a Super Bowl? I think one community has the space and it has a moment of where some of the programs that we already have going, we have a moment to say, "Hey, how can we scale it? How can we make it bigger?
Yeah.
How can we reach more? But also, how can we use it as a way to really identify some of the areas, whether it's communities, whether it's people that maybe we haven't had a chance to tap into yet?" And there's always a need. There's always more people that you can reach, and I think through the Super Bowl we're going to be able to do that. But I am probably the most excited about truly the opportunities that come from it. We are talking through a bunch of different programs, whether it's like incubation programs or pop-up shops, just getting people prepared for how you can take advantage and use this as an opportunity for yourself. Those are the things that I'm the most excited about when it comes to Super Bowl.
Yeah, that is exciting. The world will get to see what great and impactful things that one community and Titans are doing. So,
and I think the beauty of Nashville, I think people get to see it. Of course, there's the pros and cons of hosting such a large scale event. But my hope is that, and what I believe is that we have the right people at the table who are really focusing on, no, how can we show Nashville in a different light? And again, how can we make sure that Nashvillians, the folks who live, work, play, wake up every day loving Nashville, can benefit from it and can really see this as not some big event that's coming to our city, but really like, hey, there's a big event coming and they're going to have to adapt and adjust to what we do here in Nashville. I think Nashville, when I look back over the time, Nashville shows up like that over and over again. The NFL draft, when we hosted that in 2019, was a perfect example of how there were, I think to this day, the NFL draft when we hosted is still one of the top, I think it's still in the top 3 of the largest events that the NFL has ever had when it comes to an NFL draft, and one of the most successful ones that they've had. And so I think that is just a playbook for us to kind of draw off of. But what I remember distinctly is there were so many fun things that you could do as a family to go down and experience the draft, even if you weren't an NFL fan. So I truly believe that with the partnerships that are, it's a couple of different partners that are leading the charge on the Super Bowl in addition to the Tennessee Titans. I do think that that's at the top, the front of mind of how can we make sure that this is for Nashvillians.
I love that. So this excitement is not just for the city, but for the community.
Correct.
That the city serves. I love that. So now we're going to go in a direction of a personal perspective, right? So this is a city you grew up in. Yes. So what does it mean to be able to serve and provide opportunity for the city that has raised and shaped you?
It means a lot to me. It's also a lot of weight to carry, but it means so much. This work, I never would have dreamed that I would be in a role like this. I've always been a community-driven person, and I've always known for a long time how much I love serving community. But if you would have told me 10, 15 years ago that I would be able to do this for my home city, representing my home team, like if you would have told me that, I would have been like, whatever. But it's exciting. I think it means the world to me because the neighborhoods that I grew up in and what Nashville has done for me, when I look at the young people that I come in contact with, or when we go out to a school, or when we go out even to a mom and pop shop and do something, I see myself in those individuals, and I see my mother. I see, my own family. I see my own friends. I see my own relationships. And that is something that I wish I could like bottle it up and give that to every single person, like in their own jobs. And I wish everyone could find that. But what I would also say is like, I felt that even when I was with the YMCA. Like every day I showed up and I, felt like, man, I am so grateful to have the platform and the opportunity to show up for my community because I know what it's like. I know what that means, and I know how meaningful it is to receive that recognition and to be seen when you are the recipient of a program or a resource, or when someone just opens up that door for you. And so it's meaningful. I love the work that I get to do. And honestly, like I said, at the end of the day, doing it on behalf of the Tennessee Titans is incredible and mind-blowing. I still wake up some days like, what?
I get to do this.
Yeah, I get to do this. But I do believe, I strongly believe, no matter what, even if it weren't for the Tennessee Titans, just the fact that I get to show up for my community in such a unique and special way, that just gives my heart, it brings my heart joy all the time. And then I look at my kids and I'm like, man, I hope you guys love Nashville just as much as I do. And I'm constantly like, look how beautiful our city is, or look at this and look at that. And so even when I look at my kids, it is, you think about the next generation of how am I opening up doors for them? Am I using my platform to really just carve out a path that they can easily walk on, but also that they know, like, hey, you have some adults in your life who are really making decisions and doing things that hopefully one day you will see the fruits of that labor.
I love that. So showing that, look, sometimes philanthropy is personal.
It is.
It's
It
personal.
is. And it should be.
Yes.
No matter what, it should be.
So before I let you go and before we come to an end, if there's someone that wants to show up for a community, not just as an individual, but someone that has a platform and now has the access to a platform, what advice would you give them?
I would start with one, listening. I think we can come up with so many different ways and ideas of how we can give back and what we want to do. Keyword on want. But really taking a moment to do your research, educate yourself on what's happening, and whatever the area is that you want to give back. And from there, I think then saying, okay, is this something that I can, I always talk about the 5 T's, your talent, your time, your treasure, your testimony, and your truth.
Ooh,
5 ways.
I'm gonna remember that.
Yeah,
Okay.
5 ways that you can give back. And I would be remiss if I didn't shout out a good friend of mine, Christian Bugs Frazier, who introduced me to that concept of the 5 T's. But I think my advice would be, when you assess those 5 T's, what comes to mind first? Is it, hey, I really want to give back. I really want to do something to address a cause or just make an imprint on my community? Is that using your talent to mentor kids after school? Is that using your talent to, hey, I'm gonna, I do audio visual work, so I'm gonna go into a school and create, work with the school to create something with the students so they can learn about audio visual work? Like, what does that look like using your talent? Is it your time? I'm just simply going to volunteer at a nonprofit, or, hey, I'm going to get involved with a nonprofit and serve on a board and truly show up as a board member, and lend my time and my talents. Is it, I am going to use my time to educate myself on what's happening in my community so that I can educate someone else and introduce someone else to that work? Though, when you assess those 5 T's, those are just 2 examples of that. But when you assess those 5 T's, I think taking time to really think through what it is that you want to do. And then from there, reaching out to that nonprofit or educating yourself on what nonprofit in that space does that work. Because I can guarantee you there's a nonprofit that does it, and I can guarantee you they want your help and they need your help. And so if there's any advice that I could give, listening, educating yourself, using those 5 T's that I mentioned to as a litmus test of what can I do, what do I have the capacity and bandwidth to do? And then the next thing I would say is tell a friend. Like, tell a friend to tell another friend. If you find a nonprofit that is doing incredible work, talk about it.
Yeah.
Tell people to donate their time, or tell people to use the 5 T's to figure out how they can get involved. Talk about it. Be an advocate. The number one thing that nonprofits and just our communities need is just more people talking about the work that is happening and talking about the need, and then moving that to action of, how can I support? How can I be a voice? How can I share more about the work that's happening in that space, to better support those nonprofits? So listen, educate yourself, and then pick one of the 5 T's and start from there. But definitely listening and educating yourself on what's happening. There's so many ways to do that. I feel like this podcast is a great way, because you interview some incredible people that are highlighting some great things that are happening out into our community.
Thank you so much, Johari. And this is what Impact Unscripted is all about, is highlighting the various way that we can show up for community. And thank you for bringing your whole story and passion into the work that you're doing and the way you're serving community.
Thank you.
And thank you to our listeners. And this is where impact takes many forms. Thank you for listening.